Have you ever stopped to think about how we talk about food? We use these rich, sensory, really specific words. But what if that same language, the language of the kitchen, could also be a recipe for understanding things like truth, justice, and, well, the foundations of a whole nation? Okay, let's dive into this.
So, we're going to start where all good things do with the food itself. The words we use to describe what we eat are just incredibly powerful. They don't just label something, they actually make you taste and feel it.
I mean, take the word succulent. It's not just good or tasty, right? It paints this whole picture. You can almost feel that juicy, tender meat. It's a word that gives you a complete sensory experience, all on its own.
Or how about zesty? That one word just pops. It conveys this bright, sharp, pleasant kick. You immediately know that something is lively and just packed with flavor. That's the power of picking the exact right word.
And it's not just the describing words, the adjectives. Verbs like sauté are super specific instructions. They describe a precise action that leads to a precise outcome. In the kitchen, you see, clarity is everything. So, okay, we've got this vocabulary that's incredibly good at describing food and cooking. But what happens when these phrases kind of escape the kitchen and start popping up in our everyday lives? And that brings us to our next section. The language of food is just so universal, it's become this amazing source of metaphors for talking about life itself. Just think about it. You take a simple image, a plate piled high with food, and it perfectly captures a really complex human feeling. When someone tells you they have a full plate, you instantly get it. They're busy, probably overwhelmed, and they don't even have to list a single thing they have to do. Or this classic saying, it's just a brilliant reminder that, you can talk a big game, but it's the results that actually matter. The real test isn't the fancy recipe, it's how the pudding actually tastes. It's all about action over words. We've seen this journey from simple food words all the way to these complex life metaphors. But that kind of raises a bigger question, doesn't it? Who is making these connections and why? Because this isn't just a fun language lesson. There's something much, much more profound going on here. And this is where our story really takes a turn. Let's peel back the layers and look at the person behind this whole unique approach to language and figure out what their mission really is. I want you to meet Alexei Fisenko. Now, he's an English teacher, but get this, he also has a degree in business administration. And he founded an online learning platform for Ukrainians called Your Riverschool. So this background, this mix of precise language and systemic logic, it's absolutely key. Fisenko lives by this philosophy, docendo discimus, a Latin phrase that means, by teaching, we learn. So for him, the act of teaching isn't just about giving out knowledge. It's his way to get his own thoughts crystal clear and to deepen his own understanding of the world. And here it is. This is his real mission. It's not about teaching English vocabulary for its own sake. It's about giving his students, Ukrainians who are living through immense change and conflict, the actual tools to think clearly and talk about the biggest issues they're facing: truth, injustice, and the future of their country. So, how does this actually work in practice? I mean, how do you really go from culinary idioms to civic discourse? Let's take a look at how Fisenko puts this entire philosophy into action. Fisenko takes the famous broken window theory and applies it to society. He'll point to a very specific issue, like a housing complex at Raketna 24, and argue that when you ignore one injustice, it sends a signal that more injustices can also be ignored. It kicks off this chain reaction that affects everything from education to public trust. This leads him to his guiding principle, a really powerful Latin phrase that just captures this non-stop commitment to truth. Let truth be done, though the world perish. It's a statement about demanding accountability no matter how hard or disruptive that might be. He even applies this critical lens to popular political slogans. For instance, when he analyzes the slogan, Army, Language, Faith, Fisenko argues that a word like faith can't just be a symbol. For it to be meaningful, he says, it has to translate into real, ethical action. Specifically, speaking out against corruption on all sides, whether it's taking bribes or giving them. And this brings us to his core principle, which just nails it. Justice is the foundation of states. For Fisenko, a strong, resilient nation isn't just built on armies or catchy slogans. It's built on a bedrock of justice, of fairness, of accountability.
So what does all of this mean for us? How can we take these big ideas and actually apply them? Well, this final section is all about turning this philosophy into a practical toolkit.
Here are the actionable steps that come right out of Fisenko's philosophy. First, acknowledge that every broken window, every small problem matters. Second, see learning not just as self-improvement, but as a civic duty. Third, use language clearly to speak truth and defend rights. And fourth, demand that institutions, whether they're based on faith or law, actually align with honest behavior.
And that brings us right back to where we started, full circle. We began with a simple sensory word like succulent. We ended with a huge monumental concept like justice. The journey between them shows that every single word we master, every concept we make clear in our own minds, gives us more power. The power not just to describe the world as it is, but to articulate the world as it should be. Which really just leaves us with one final thought. If clear, precise, and truthful language really is the foundation for justice and a stronger society, what will you choose to say?